Today, we're doing a comprehensive breakdown of all the mixed species of hell as a follow-up to our recent video about the various species of hell that we'd recently learned about. This video won't just cover what these mixed species are, but how I think they might fit into the various societies that each species comes from. Let's break it down, but real quick, we're doing a special giveaway for one lucky viewer to get a free Demonic Cartoon Detective t-shirt to help promote Hailey's foodie Instagram. She posts a lot of cool food finds there, especially cool cartoon-related ones. All you have to do is be subscribed to the channel and follow her Instagram account for a chance to win. Just use the Gleam link in the pinned comment down below to verify that you follow the accounts, and you'll automatically be entered for the opportunity to win. The winner must be from within the continental US for shipping and handling reasons. Now, as far as we have seen, imps appear to be the species of demon that has mixed the most with the other species of hell. This is due, I believe, to them being the species that seems to have the most migration in hell, with them appearing to have major populations in the Pride Ring, such as in Imp City, as well as them making up most of the population in the Greed Ring, allowing the local loan sharks to exploit them. They seem to have a decent-sized population in the Lust Ring as well, and I imagine they have some communities in the Sloth Ring and the Gluttony Ring. The Envy Ring I expect to be a deep-sea ocean with no outside species being able to survive there except for maybe other sea creatures, and the Wrath Ring of course appears to be the original home of the Imps. In addition to the Hellevator system, tunnels exist between the different rings, such as the one Stryker uses to travel between Pride and Wrath with Stolas. This means that before the modernization of Hell, there may have been migrations of imps that were more random and not planned by the elites. Not intended the way that Imp City seems to be a purposeful imp colony that Paimon set up for Stolas to rule over, for example. I imagine there was a time in the past of Hell where mixed species demons were less common, but as imp communities began to set themselves up in other rings, there would inevitably be some mixing of the species. When two different types of demons have a child together, they generally get about half of each species' traits, with there being quite a few examples of this that we will explore later in the video. However, the first generation child of two different species will generally only have the option of marrying someone who is of one species or the other, instead of another mixed species demon like themselves. Because imps are of lower class than other species, I imagine they would generally have more dating options with imps than with what their other lineage is, as the classes system of Hell would associate you with the lowest ranked species that you are a mix of. Over time, this would lead to imp populations that had evolved some of the traits of another species that the imps of another ring would not have mixed with nearly as much. Thus, different rings where imps would mix with different species over hundreds and thousands of years would eventually lead to different types of imps entirely. Wrath appears to be the original home of the various imp species before they began migrating, but as Moxie proves, Hell is a bit of a modern place where the original home of a species is becoming less relevant. Moxie says he is from Wrath because his mother is from there, but he grew up largely with his father in Greed and now lives in the Pride Ring. Wrath imps as a whole are indicated to be shorter than other imps in other rings, though at the Harvest Moon Festival we can see a variety of different sized imps still. The stereotype of shorter imps in Wrath may be true overall, but it will not be a concrete rule. The biggest different imp types that seem to exist are Lust Imps and Pride Imps. Blitz appears to be a Pride Imp, though we don't know if he and his family may have migrated from another ring after Imp City was established. Blitz is generally taller than the other imps we see and has very large horns, similar to his father, and of course the young Fizzarali, who is not related to Blitz but also appears to be a Pride Ring imp who originally had big horns as well. It is uncertain what species these imps may have mixed with, if any, as Pride is not known for having a local native species the way other rings are, like with the Imps of Wrath or the Hellhounds of Gluttony and such. It is possible that their height is just something they naturally evolved into while in isolation from other imps in other rings, and is not related to the mixing of species the way height and other traits seem to be with the Lust Imps. These days, even a famous pop star like Veroska can date a low-level imp like Blitz, and it would seem that the seductive population of Succubus in the Lust Ring over time mixed with imps who had made their own colony there. Early on, we were told that some imps have wings, for instance, but not all imps, and it was later shown that a lot of these winged imps seem to come from the Lust Ring. While still having most of their ancestry with imps, the succubus mixing with the imps over centuries would lead to these bigger, often sexier imps who have the added benefit of wings. This is probably the biggest difference that a distinctly imp group has from all of the other subspecies of imp, and I imagine there to be a certain level of social value that these winged imps have over the regular imps, probably also being recognized as more attractive because of their succubus lineage. The lust ring seems very open to finding every species attractive in the present time, so succubus-infused imps are something that is probably somewhat celebrated even, while with some of them even working at Aussies. As of now, we haven't seen what appears to be any more fully developed subspecies of imp that we can describe in detail here, but they will be among the most common characters who have mixed species, as we will explore. Now, the first instance I think we have of us seeing what may be a half-species is in episode 2 of season 1 at Lululand. Here, we saw a variety of imps, but two of them stand out in particular. One is the mean imp hitting on Millie and picking on Moxie, though it's hard to really say what he'd actually be a mix of. However, he does look a bit like this other imp in the background who has similar features not just to that imp, but is also distinctly more dinosaur looking. This guy looks just like a raptor with imp horns, which at the time was a little bit weird. It wouldn't be until the episode Oops in season 2 where we'd see there are actually quite a few species of demon that are basically just dinosaurs. There's some generic looking ones that were hard to tell apart from the more well-known sharks of the Green Ring, but there's more obvious examples like this nerdy pterodactyl, and everyone remembers the big booba triceratops. It would seem that this raptor imp was the earliest hint we got that we'd be seeing dino demons down the road, and I'm hoping with the Green Ring becoming an important location to the show that we learn a little bit more about them as a whole. Now in episode 3, we get a moment where a few background characters line up to read a poster that Blitz has put out about their special spring break deal. In the back of this line, we see two demons that look like potential mixed species. Now, these two are Impsonas for people who work on the show from what I understand, so we shouldn't read too much into their designs. But it would be fun if this one here was a half hellhound instead of just an imp perhaps dressing as a hellhound, and this more animalistic looking one here could very well be some sort of mixed species with a gluttony ring. Which, if Greed is going to have all these different kinds of dinosaurs just walking around, I have to imagine there has to be other furry species in the gluttony ring outside of the hellhound still. Now, in episode 5, we were introduced to Striker, who's one of the most prominent mixed species characters in the show, a mix of an imp and a species that was said not to have been revealed on screen by that time. For a while, his eyes matched those of the shark demons, but this general character was more desert than ocean, with him having clear rattlesnake themes complete with the rattle sound effect in the background. The only snake we've seen so far is in the Green Ring, which makes sense with there also being so many dinosaur species there. However, that snake was a cobra-looking demon, and Striker is more of a rattlesnake, as we've said, which makes sense to be from the desert-like Wrath. It is possible that both rings have their own native snake species, or, like Moxie's mom, the Cobra Demon may have been someone Crimson pulled out of the Wrath Ring as well. In episode 7, Aussies, we got some of our earliest looks at the candle-headed Baphomet demons, with there being one who appeared to be half imp and half Baphomet on a date with a more typical-looking Baphomet demon. The Baphomets have among the most diversity I've seen with their species, with there being all sorts of different colors, shapes, and sizes, and they seem to have a very relaxed lifestyle where a half-imp, half-Baphomet is probably not seen very much differently as anyone else in the Sloth Ring where the Baphomets seem to live. Again, in episode 7, when we first get on an elevator, we get a close-up look at what appears to be a half-shark, half-succubus demon, with close-up art of her being released online later. She would appear again later as one of Fizz's fans during Fizzarolli's performance, where we'd also be able to clearly see both her succubus wings and her shark fin, with the hook in her nose in the original design seeming to be a way to prove that she is a shark and not just part snake. Sharks are a bit of an elite class in the Green Ring, and I expect them to outrank the dinosaurs just as much as they outrank the imps. However, I imagine them as being more open to marriages outside of their species. A key to maintaining their elite status in the Green Ring is to exploit the other communities, but a lot of the locals don't trust the sharks, it would seem. That's where Crimson comes in, serving as a middleman that the imps can trust but who the sharks can use to take advantage of those imps. Half-shark marriages lead to getting a better footing in the community of another species, allowing the shark to work through that connection and for that demon to use his local connections with his native species to push the agenda of the sharks. Now, the majority of Crimson's flunkies are also sharks, but the shark types can be diverse, and a few of them are distinctly mixed species. One easy example is Stu, who is said to be a succubi and a shark, with him mostly getting the features of a succubus, it seems. I'm not sure about succubus communities outside of the Lust Ring, but the fact that there's an entire succubus floor in Blitz's building in Imp City tells me they probably have small communities in every ring, probably even in Greed. Stu probably served as a bit of a liaison between the shark community and the local succubus, or else maybe just seen as an outcast by the succubus, with the sharks being the only ones who would give him a job. He also works with Marcella, this much shorter looking lady shark, who is said to be part possessor in her notes, though we don't really know exactly what a possessor is. Due to the fin-like hair that she has, however, some fans have speculated that possessors may be these eel-like demons that are believed to come from the Envy Ring. As of now, we haven't seen any deep sea demons crossed with imps, and based on the imp racism that the deep sea Karen shows Blitz while at the Sloth Ring Hospital, I don't think that they're open to outer species marriage the way that the other species of hell seem to be. Finally, there is Butch, who is very colorful but is apparently half imp and half shark, and is probably the most interesting cross of two species that I've seen so far. Another one was spotted as a fan of clowning in Mammon's Magnificent Special, having the cooler tones of the shark demons but with the imp horns as well. There's still a lot to explore in the Helliverse in terms of mixed species in episodes to come, but I think this is every major example I've been able to find in episodes so far. Let me know if there's any I missed in the comments down below, as well as which characters are your favorite and what mixed species you want to see next. See you guys next time.